Taz is our speaker today. She's an accredited Kanban trainer. She's an accredited Kanban coach. She's doing a full-scale Kanban implementation in the organization that she is working on. She is here to help us with any questions that we have in regards to Kanban implementation. Thank you, Taz, for joining with us today. Really appreciate your time.
My
I
pleasure.
hope we have some good questions
Yeah,
today.
hopefully. Yeah, few
Otherwise,
folks, so they, hopefully they will be able to spur the rest of everyone else on to get in and be interactive and engage with us.
yep, I hope so. So, folks, I see folks joining, and today is a dull day. I mean, we usually have at least 30, 25 people joining, right? And folks that are on the call are a little busy, either in bus or in a meeting. I hope they will catch up soon with us. Um, but Srinivas, I see you there. Binta, I haven't heard from you. Um, and Arti, William, any of you, if you have any specific questions, please put it on the chat. We are happy to answer. Again, we are past the exact time, 10:05. We're going to start now. Um, if you have any questions in regards to implementation of Kanban, we are happy to help you answer all of those questions as much as we can. So it's an open forum. There wouldn't be a topic that we'll be discussing exactly, but anything that you guys want to know. Hey, Kaden, and I see Srinivas Kopila. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, guys. Why are
They
you
just
shy today?
came to watch us, or listen to us. Nope, this is a interactive office hours.
Correct. Kaden, this nice background picture. Are you on the call? Are you on video? I see something moving on, but I can't see you. Oh,
Me
yeah. Your, I think Caden's video is pointing in a
Hi,
picture.
Sharat. Good morning. How are you doing? Hi, Taz.
So, how are you?
Yeah, fine. Thanks for asking. I'm just under mute because our other side, some other meeting is going on. So please apologize me.
Multitasking.
No.
Ooh.
But Srinivas, are you implementing Kanban in your teams? I know you have a couple of teams you've been
Yes,
working
yes,
as.
yes, yes, yes. We are doing that. So actually, Tuesday, Wednesday, we are trying to start a new sprint. So that's why like we are little occupied at this point of time. So, but however, I don't want Sarat displease Sarat, so I'm a regular attendee. So that's why I attended. I'm maintaining 2 computers from my son. All right, please,
Oh,
I
Yeah.
apologize. Yeah.
quick question for you, Sharina Vaz. How did you launch? What was the way that you sort of brought Kanban in, or the Kanban method, whichever sort of flavor you're working or using, and how did you sort of launch the teams? I'm curious.
Well, that's a good question. Normally in our environment, for any technical debt issues, we are trying to use Kanban because as a simultaneous approach to see that the the presentation, the review can be taken care of very well. So that is what that's the main purpose we are using it here, because ours is only a lift and shift program on the corporate services. So that's why it's our internal this thing. We are trying to replace the third party interference. So as such, we are not into the customer driven, we are the client driven. So we are doing at the back end. So it's a lift and shift program from mainframe to the the cloud technology. We are trying to shift the data, to be very precise.
Okay. And how many teams do you currently use that? How many teams do you have currently using
See,
Kanban?
we have, I handle about 12 teams, about 3 teams into Scrum, and about 2 teams with the integration, and about 2 to 3 teams we are trying to convert from waterfall to agile. So we are in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Great. Well,
And
all by yourself.
yes, each team is about 6 to 7 people with a need-based architect being present for the accessibility issues and those stuff.
And when it comes to,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
guys, go ahead. No,
Yes, go-
please.
No, really, go ahead. Okay.
No, I was gonna say, when it comes to Kanban, are you guys trying to adapt across the organization or the
Totally
teams?
not. That's what I was saying, Sharad. Not totally. Our main focus is with the Scrum to Scrum and Scrum of Scrum. Only when there is some technical debt, like we
Understood.
because it's an internal project, like we have to go according to the availability of the budget. So it is just we are trying to transform our internal third-party interference towards our own usance. So it's like when everyone has taken the budget, the left-out budget, we have to do this. So this is an ongoing this thing. I do not know whether it is a blessing to me or it is not. But like this project is going to be there, and it will go like as a Tata speed. But definitely there is some improvement. Not on a monthly basis, at least on a quarterly basis, there is some improvement. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. As
I'm
we see
I, I,
more,
I- I'm getting paid. That I'm happy for that. As like uh, so that I have multiple activities with my team. I'm happy with this project. So that's what it is.
awesome. Yeah. And we see other people joining, Margaret, Clara, Sri.
Yeah. So I will take the
Yeah.
other screen. I will again join you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Srini. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
Hey,
just
hello, folks.
contact.
How you doing? My apologies, Taz, please. I was just going to
Oh, no,
follow
I
up.
was just commenting that he's contact with. That's what he's I guess he's got 2 meetings going on. That's just one or another.
Yeah. And we just took a note of not doing this anymore in Wednesdays because of the spring plannings. And most of the organization does it on Wednesdays. So we're probably going to move this to Thursdays. I think that would be better to have
Yeah,
more.
it's
Yeah.
definitely an early morning, right? Sort of obviously in the middle of the work week here. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
as many people as you would might typically get, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Does anybody currently have any questions right now for us that we can answer for you or to answer for
Yeah.
you?
We just got Margaret, Clara. Hey, Claire. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Could you please help me out, Claire? Eh? Pierre.
Pierre?
Yes. I'm not in close 50%. I'm so sorry.
No, no
Oh,
problem. No worries at all.
thank you for
You're welcome.
joining. Do you have any questions, Pierre?
Not at the moment, no.
They're coming in. There's going to be a lot of silence without questions.
And it's for the first time. How many of you are implementing or introducing Kanban into your teams? How many of you are using Kanban? Anyone who has Kanban teams, working in a Kanban team, leading a Kanban team, or planning to start a new Kanban team? Here since 3 years. Oh, fantastic. Hey, Steve, I'm guessing you're in a different meeting. That's why you're chatting. What company and what kind of teams are you there in, Steve? If you'd like to share a little more details, and if you're not another meeting, I would really appreciate if you could unmute and speak up. Sri. If you're in a different meeting, I understand. Margaret, I know you have late, but I'm using Canva to solve the production issues and get some of that. Nice. Let's go. Software delivery beta. Okay, nice. So, Aarti,
One,
thank you. Go ahead, Taz, please.
I wanted to know from it, then the person just mentioned that they were just starting Kanban, and I'm curious what the or planning. I'm curious what that entails or will entail for them. Like, how are you introducing Kanban or con? You some people
Yeah,
say
Binta,
Kanban.
you wanna unmute maybe if you can. Good
Hey
job.
guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is all new. We've been doing Scrum and Agile mainly, but we obviously with the new structure of the company, we're trying to introduce Kanban as part of the software delivery team. So my I sign up to this webinar presentation to sort of see what things that we need to be aware of, what sort of precautions that need to be taken, so we can sort of run this project smoothly. From the expert, you guys, this is pretty much a new thing for us as proper Kanban sort of use. And I guess I don't know every other person in the on the call here. I don't know whether they are veteran with Kanban or whatever, but I'm here to sort of see where we can get some hints and good ideas about how to get the practice properly implemented.
Okay.
I think that's a fantastic question, Taz, for you to take.
Well, I first wanted to know what's the motivation for Kanban. What was the deciding factor as to why you are gonna you decided to?
Yeah, this mainly came from the leadership team, basically trying to sort of have an effective work in progress properly implemented and continuous improvement, has how we deliver the several, because we deliver the software version by version, and we sort of trying to improve the process itself as well as lower the amount of technical debt that we end up adding after each release. So anything that can obviously help with that and increase our productivity that was the main reason why the leadership brought that on and said we should be adopting that to see how that can improve things, really.
Okay, I see. So so have you, how much I guess enablement or learning or upskilling has there been around Kanban with this new drive toward these teams applying the practices, the principles?
I think with every product or every methodology or framework available, I think there is basic training that we all have, and reading documents here and there and trying to apply. Obviously, Kanban being quite related to the iterative way of delivering software is the basis of things, and we all were aware of that because we already implemented Agile, and we're using Scrum as well internally. So this is just another way, like I said earlier, another way of seeing how we can improve things based on our model of delivery that the company is now adopting. But having said that, in basic knowledge, yes, we all have that in the team, but it's, trying to see whatever extra that we can bring in to make this a smooth sort of addition to our tools that we use, really.
See, Yeah. Well, I will say this. One of the things that I did during my journey is that I focused on, agility, obviously, but more about survivability, resilience, um, and Kanban scaling through service orientation.
Yeah.
And so my training comes out of Kanban University. So others may have different flavors that they apply. So let's be very specific that mine is specifically the Kanban method, which
Yeah.
is more of it's a way of delivering work, a way of visualizing that work, managing that work. But you start from where you are. So there's 4, foundational principles, there's 6 core practices, and then there's also some change management principles. So it's not just about obviously a board, right? Oftentimes if you're fairly new to it, you think it's an easy implementation. Not to say always, right? But in some cases, people think that it's a really easy implementation, and in certain cases it is, but the aftermath of discipline that's required to maintain the consistency and the continuous improvement and the mindset is going to be really important and key before you really start to. I don't know what the speed of implementation is for your leaders. I don't know when they want this to be implemented. One of the things that we utilize is something called static. Static stands for the systems thinking approach to introducing Kanban. And the value in doing it that way is that there's a number of steps that you might take. So, for instance, and I'll just say with my company, Cisco, what we did is we wanted to accelerate and get as many people involved in terms of teams without having to, because they give us a certain amount of time to get people launched, get them scaled up, and then we did observational coaching afterwards to ensure the success. So it's going to really be important that you gain some knowledge around it. And I mean beyond just the idea that we have a board, we have a number of columns, and then we have maybe some WIP limits. There's a lot of practices that could be implemented based around certain maturity levels of an organization that we utilize to help, right? So as a Kanban coach, we use, for instance, the Kanban maturity model, which is a roadmap, if you will, that allows you to implement certain practices, but it's based, because again, we focus on evolutionary change. It's incremental, it's small changes. We don't change anything.
Yeah.
You start from where you are, right? So do you have a question? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead. Actually, I'll mute myself so I can,
okay. Free to jump in if anybody has a question as I'm speaking. I don't mind. This is collaborative. This is supposed to be a bit of interactivity here, but that's how we decided that in order to scale, right? And we scale not just up or down. We scale by depth, width, and height. So we look at not just the one team, but all the teams, right? All the people that are connected to those teams, to understand how they work, to understand how they're connected from a point of, well, if you have a certain workflow, do you have any dependencies, right? If you have dependencies, we obviously want to understand how are those dependencies connected to other services within the organization as well. And so that's how, and so what we did is we created an accelerated Kanban dojo concept. And we focused on a 5-day mini Kanban dojo concept that included 3 to 4 teams. I paired with another coach. They focused more on the sort of foundational stuff, the agility foundations, if you will, foundational material. And I focused all on the Kanban basics as well as the static workshop. We always, for the most part, use the static workshop because it is a great introduction into the team, understanding their purpose, their vision, understanding, why do they exist? And also, what are their current sources of dissatisfaction, the things that ail them, the things that are constraints for them, because we want to understand where they're starting from. And then obviously as part of that, we hope that will be a motivation for a change. So we look at that, we help them to articulate that, document that, communicate that, discuss it. And then from there, we chart out a plan. Well, how do you think you will improve these how can these things be improved? So we look at the internal sources of dissatisfaction as well as the external. The external meaning the customer. And we talk heavily about the customer because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, the customer. And what are their current constraints? What are their current challenges with your service? Right? So we talk through that with them. But then ultimately, we also go into areas where we want to understand their demand and their capability, right? So we will go through this. The workshop is usually, the Kanban part is usually day 3 through day 5. And what we do again is we start with the Kanban basics of learning everything from the change management principles to the service delivery, as well as the core practices, 6 core practices as well. Any questions on what those might be, or is everybody pretty familiar with the 6 core practices of Kanban? Or at least what you believe, because again, some people might be focused on maybe prokanban.org. I don't know, everybody's different, but I'm curious, does anybody?
I have, that's, I think we're going fantastic, but I wanted to ask one question to Binta, if this is organizational adoption or is this her team level adoption? So we could probably, steer the conversation.
Yeah.
For Binta. Yours is obviously organization. Yeah.
I apologize. I thought you were talking to me.
Okay. No. So does it make sense? Binta, is it a team level, your team, or it's a whole organization adoption?
It's a team level. Mind you, we've already been working with the Scrum framework. So how we can improve things is how the whole idea of applying Kanban popped up from the leadership team. So
sorry, yeah. Thank you for the input, Stas. I just wanted to understand that from our perspective, so we could help more in, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
No. Please continue. You were on a very good flow. I'm putting notes on the whiteboard for you while you talk.
Okay. Before I finish or continue, does anybody have any questions based on the things I've said already?
For the question that you asked, right? People, are you aware of the practices and principles? There is a chat saying, I'm not aware from Sri.
Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't really looking at it. You're looking at the chat. I'm sorry. Oh, Sri said, "No, I'm not aware." So yeah, the 6 core practices are essential.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Hello? What just happened? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I think that there might have been a bit of a glitch there. Sorry about that.
That's fine. I can hear.
I installed my operating system. I probably shouldn't have done that just before this meeting. I should know better. But anyway, yes, the 6 core practices help to improve workflow, reduce bottlenecks, and increase overall productivity. So the focus is on 1, we want to make sure that we're visualizing the workflow. That's core practice number 1, or CP1. And what that is we make work visible so that everyone involved is involved by mapping out the task and their flow, right? So I would say, have you done any mapping of your workflow yet? And have you established any kind of Kanban configuration yet, Binta?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's currently starting to be done, and there's a bit of consultation going around, us talking to one another to see how we can bring this all together. Mind you, we're trying to see mainly what improvement can be introduced, because like you mentioned not long ago, I don't want us to fall into a trap that thinking of walking away from Scrum will probably solve all our problems that I mentioned, with the continuous improvement and with the, work in progress, limiting work in progress and all the rest of it. So it's a little bit difficult when you get decision coming from up to us down, you sort of kind of execute mainly because you've been asked to. But it would be good for us
Yeah.
to present something to them to say, hey, maybe we can do half because there is a Scrum ban as well. So, do we have to totally switch off Scrum and make sure that Kanban is done, or can we deal with the current issues that we're having with all the technical debt? Maybe there are other ways to improve the whole workflow. Uh, I'm all ears if there is anybody who want to share their experiences or knowledge or anything that could help us to do that. But there's definitely talk already. We are talking. We've begun already looking at options, and we already have our columns done to do already there. But that's not enough. We want all the processes to fall into place so that this can really be a proper delivery. Framework that we are looking to achieve.
Thank you. So I'm gonna finish up with the 6 core practices first before I talk about a little bit about systems introduction or systems thinking approach, right? This is all about the entire system. When we think about Kanban, we don't necessarily think about Kanban just in sort of a micro way, we more macro, if you will. But it's about modeling the workflow. So it's sometimes people will confuse that with value stream mapping. It's not quite value stream management or value stream mapping. It's really about modeling your current existing process from end to end, because you can improve the process if you don't have a clear idea of what the process consists of, right? From step 1 to request all the way to delivery. So I'm curious about that. You mentioned to do. Do you have a column called to do?
Yes, we do. Yes.
So you're not modeling the workflow there. And let me explain why. I know. Let me just explain why I say this.
Okay.
Oftentimes, and there's nothing wrong with typically, I call that proto Kanban, if you will, a little bit. A lot of personal Kanban boards might look like that, where we might just need a to-do doing done, right? Because ideally, we may not be necessarily doing any kind of software building, or we may not be delivering a process per se. We're really just, keeping up with our work from day to day. So that's a typical board. But what I would say is, if you can get the team to articulate for you what they believe their workflow is from start to end, then you can create a board or a design, I call it a system design, that will allow for you to truly visualize your workflow, but then also figure out where the inefficiencies are. Where are the delays in the process? Where are the bottlenecks in the process, right? Do you need to maybe lean out some of your processes? If you don't model it, you can't improve it. If you have a to-do doing done, what in your process is to do? Think about it. Is it analysis? Is it data gathering? These are processes. Is it, let's say development? Maybe you have and let me explain this a little bit. So we consider it to be we sort of look at things as upstream, which is prior to delivery or prior to commitment of the work, and downstream, which is delivery. So that's after you've committed to delivering, and now the team may be ready to pull that work in. So we try to defer to the last minute because we believe that not all work, right, in itself is necessarily ready to be committed to. So we say you can discard work prior to commitment and without customer impact for the most part. If you then commit to the work in downstream, you now can only abort the work, which is greater impact to the customer. So when I say that, look at your current configuration, and again, talk to the team and ask them, what is your current process steps? What steps do you do in your work, in your delivery pipeline, right? What is it when the work comes in? What happens next? When you do analysis, what happens next? When you do, for instance, testing, what happens next? Until you get to the actual delivery of the value. That's when you, for the most part, will know that you have some semblance of a model of your process. not a to-do doing done. That is you're never gonna really see your issues or your problems if you don't break the process out in greater columns. Go ahead, Bente. Any questions so far?
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Thanks very much for breaking it down so nicely. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what we talk about when we say we want to, 1, visualize the workflow, 2,
Yeah.
we want to limit work in progress, 3, we want to manage the flow, right? Because actively monitoring, this is where the sometimes the teams will stall out or people stall because they don't realize how much discipline Kanban actually requires. And they look at it and they kind of create a container of work, but that isn't really ideally what Kanban expects you to do, right? So managing the workflow means actively monitoring and optimizing that workflow, ensuring that the work items, right, because all work items are not delivered in the same amount of time because they are different, right? So that's another thing. When you understand your cycle times and your lead times, and throughput, they're going to be somewhat different. So it's good as far as static. That's what we do is we establish what are your work types, right? What are your current work types? How do they get delivered? What's the pattern of delivery, for instance? Are they deliver? Do they have to deliver that thing? Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Oh, okay. I don't know. Did anybody hear that? Or is it
I think it's background noise from a video from my side. Apologies, Taz.
No problem. Just make sure I'm not losing my mind. And thinking I'm hearing stuff I'm not hearing. Okay. But I'm gonna stop just for a second. I know that's a lot, and it can be overwhelming sometimes. So question, anybody have any questions at this point as I'm talking about these 6 core practices? Again, 1 being visualize the work, 2 being limit that work in progress, manage that flow of work, again, consistently from end to end, make policies explicit. I want recording. I don't think we're recording, right?
We are recording.
Oh, we are recording. Okay. There you go. And I don't have a PowerPoint per se. This is really this is really just a question and answer. But you can I can help you. Yes, Margaret, you're right. Limiting WIP is crucial. Easier said than done. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you use a little bit of sociological sort of identity here. When I, as part of my Kanban coaching training, we talked a lot about sociological identity. We talked a lot about that because oftentimes the way people work, how people work, what they work on are very much tied to their identity. And what we want to understand, and they tend to take more of an emotional response as a rational response to change. And so I'm like literally, you're paying attention to the chat, right? Because I'm taking
care of the chat. Don't worry.
So back to what I was saying to Margaret, you're absolutely right. But one way you can help if you understand if we first of all we start small, and that's why we say we start from where we are. We don't make any big bang changes. But what I would say is, ask them. First of all, I would have a conversation with them and ask them, well, what is it about WIP limits, right, that challenge you, or what is it about WIP limits that maybe you don't understand or you want to know better, understand better, right? Because there's an assumption that if you have a lot of work in progress, then what? You're doing a lot of work? Not necessarily. Obviously, Margaret, I probably don't have to tell you that, right? If you got 4 things in progress, you really only do working on 1 thing. And so all the other things are suffering and they're going to age because, of course, you're not really working on them, but it looks like you are because everybody assumes if something's in progress, it's actually being worked on. And that's what we talk about when we're context switching, right? And we try to say, stop starting and start finishing the work. Oftentimes that's what we see is 2 or 3 work items, assigned to an engineer or to a developer, because in their minds, right, that the more they have in progress, and that could be a cultural thing too, right? I don't know, what the culture sort of dictates, right? Are they overburdened? But obviously that's the big reason we want to limit WIP. One, we want to not overburden our talent, right? We want them to be able to consistently deliver in a quantitative, qualitative way when you think about it, right? We won't want them just to focus on numbers, right? How many work items we're delivering, but what is the outcomes? What are the values? What are the results that we're achieving? And so limiting those limits are crucial And one thing I've been able to show them, and for instance, in my engagements, if you will, is that I show them, obviously, we look at the throughput for the week, or we look at the throughput for every 2 weeks or whatever it may be, and we audit it, right? So we look at it, we say, okay, this particular work type item, got done. If you look at the board, we have, those items got done in 2 days, right? Or another work item, piece of work got done in 5 days. So what might your service level expectation be there? Well, that's obviously depending on the team, but I have the team determine what they want the WIP limit to be. I say, okay, I know this is a new endeavor, right? And the reason again why we do this is because we want you to get work done in a sustainable way where you're not totally overburdened by the system and by the work and by the request and by all the expectations of you as a team member or as a team as a whole. And we really want you to deliver quality, right, in a consistent way. So why don't you tell me what these WIP limits you think should be based on the way that you deliver all the work? So maybe it's analysis, right? What is the typical timeline for doing analysis, that kind of thing. And then we sort of say, okay, let's start with maybe, experiment a bit with the WIP limits, right? Because especially if you have no historical data to back you up, just start with an experiment of a WIP limit, right? Maybe the number of people, -1 or +1, it doesn't really matter, right? It's what the team wants. Have the team obviously do that. And I think and after maybe 2 weeks, look at it, right? Or look at it after 4 weeks, just so you can get a little bit more data maybe to help them understand why we use WIP. But yes, you're right. In a nutshell, sometimes it is challenging, again, because they expect that they have to have 1,000 things, and that's obviously being, saying that quite sort of, facetiously, but they do, and they will put everything in progress if you let them, right? Because they don't really understand unless you teach them. Maybe use the penny game, for instance, to show them what it really means to manage WIP and why it's so important to manage WIP and why they are accountable for managing WIP. So that's just some feedback. Anything else? Margaret, did you understand what I was saying? Does it make sense what I'm saying and why I'm saying what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So I love, thank you for bringing that point up though, because it is crucial in WIP. And it really solves a lot of problems that people, if they use it consistently and they like, for instance, your WIP limit shouldn't stay the same for, ever, right? This is why I say Kanban method is a evolutionary approach to agility. Okay. It is not, again, we don't want to boil the ocean. We don't need to boil the ocean. We need, for instance, if you're using Scrum, but you haven't, maybe you're rolling over your stories from sprint to sprint to sprint to sprint. I'm sure some of you have seen that. Well, WIP limits can be utilized in, while you're using obviously the Scrum framework as a core practice, to say, okay, let's try bringing that WIP limit down, tighten it up a bit, sharpen it, because you will see productivity actually increase. And trust me, I see it every day. Let's see, Margaret's making another point. Can you tell? Let's see, I love psychological safety, the sociological aspect. That's what we learn in Kanban coaching, which is why I encourage some people, if they're interested in really being a Kanban coach, more than obviously just the basic stuff, because I had to go through a lot of training from the Change Masters class to the Kanban. So we do the KMM, we get tight with the understanding of Kanban maturity model. Has anybody looked at or seen the Kanban maturity model before? What? Yes, Sarab, I figured you probably did. Anybody else? Nobody? This might be a good time for me just to show a quick image of it. But I want to see if has everybody seen it? Because somebody maybe in chat or anybody seen it? Not seen it? Nope. Okay. Anybody else? I can't see your hand. I think there's a light there, but I think
Mahesh, says this.
Okay, I don't know if he's saying he has seen it or he hasn't.
Looks like he's putting thumbs up.
I definitely haven't seen it. No.
Okay. So let me just really quick. How much time do we have left, Sarab?
We have 15 more minutes.
let me take just
But-
a quick. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
go
go ahead, please. It's 15 more
Oh.
minutes. Do you think
just-
15 minutes will be enough to
Yeah,
tell
all
them
I'm
or
gonna
can
do is show it. Oh no, it will be more than enough. I'm just gonna show it to you. You can always get it on Kanban. There's a subscription you can get to Kanban Plus, which I utilize because I'm a coach and I'm also accredited Kanban consultant and trainer. So we get access to it, but you can also get a subscription yourself if you wanted it. And especially if you're going to be running, working with Kanban teams, it might be very helpful to you. But that's obviously completely up to you. I'm not trying to sell you anything because I don't work for Kanban University other than as a trainer, an independent trainer, an independent consultant. All right. I'm just opening up my thing. So opening up my folder. So just bear with me a moment. And there's actually over 150 practices. Now I know you're like, what? We don't necessarily use every single practice. It depends, like I said, where you are in which organizational maturity, which we assess as coaches. We come in, we understand, where you are. Again, understand your long-term trajectory, right? What are your goals, your constraints, and then we sort of utilize that information to better help you as a coach to get to the results that you actually want to achieve. Hold on, sorry. Maybe I have to open up this. Here we go.
think I'm gonna share my screen and show that what
Yeah,
is trying.
I'm about to ask, can you show I'm having again some hiccups here with my computer.
That's what you're talking about, right, Taz?
Showing it? Yes, that is.
Model.com. I'm gonna put in the chat too. But yeah, let me zoom this in for all of you. Did you want to go through each of it very quickly, or what was the plan?
It's a whole class that you have to take, like I took and was days to learn and go through this whole thing. No, I would not do that.
Yeah.
But that there are if you look at the way that it's broken out, right? That's the real interesting part, right? Is it talks about the cultural values, then it goes into looking at what kind of scope of delivery you might be doing, right? Are you at the task level, deliverable level? I can't see. Hold
on. Yeah, this is too small. I mean, we just can focus on all the levels on the left-hand side. 0, oblivious, team focused, customer driven, fit for purpose, risk hacked, market leader, and built for survival.
Exactly. And many companies, and again, this is a practical method that we use. It is we go from where the organizational maturity might be, right? So we assess leadership characteristics as well as we'll assess the organizational maturity level. Because again, if you are at a level that is a 0 or a 1, right? You're at the very limited. So you might be focused on maybe you're doing a personal Kanban, right? Or maybe you're doing all these practices though, from visualizing to limiting flow to managing flow, they go from basically consolidation to transitory. So these are things that you would start with, and then you would transition into the next section, right? And then from 0 to 1. So you might be at a 0, but then we want to take that team or that organization to 0 to 1. Then we would look at the practices like establishing per person WIP limits. Because right now they're very much thinking individually. A lot of it is individual heroics, that kind of thing. And they only focus on maybe on their work or specifically on their domain. And so we see that as a lower maturity level because really it's where they are working beyond individual heroics, beyond managerial heroics, and they're really working as a team and they're able to actually scale out and work with other services as well in doing the same thing. So that's sort of how we look at it. We want them to have established policies because we believe like if you're on a road, right, and we all are on this road and we don't have any kind of policies or rules of the road, we can crash into each other. So it's like a GPS system in many ways. Go ahead.
Yep. I was gonna say this is about 16 plus 16, 32, 70, almost 80 hours of course that we are talking about right now. 80, 90 hours.
Exactly.
So,
And we use this as we use this as a roadmap. And so
correct.
that I've always, the organizations that I've worked with have always been able to get beyond a 3, because or 2 or 3 and beyond, right? Again, you don't have to. That doesn't mean you have to apply every single practice in 3 to be a 3. So just think about that, right? I want to be clear. If you ever go back and look at this image and understand it, or maybe you want to take some classes. Again, I'm not selling anything, just telling you that would. And if you were to eventually take a KMM class or something, then you would realize you don't apply all of these. And I have an Excel. I created an Excel sheet that breaks down all of these different practices and which ones the teams are currently using. Where whenever they update their practices to a different practice or a new practice, then we update that. We look at the percentage of each of these areas that they are actually applying in terms of their practices, in order to better and make sure they're on a path that will lead them to being beyond oblivious, beyond team focused, beyond customer driven, and we really want them to be fit for purpose and beyond, right? Till we hopefully get to build for survival. But usually you have to work with a team for years for them to get there, to be honest. I know it may seem like it would be an easy thing to do based on some of the practices that you might be looking at, but trust me, it takes a while, because it's about the organizational maturity, not the maturity of the Kanban team. Because remember, you're only as good, really, and you're only allowed to do as much as the system allows you to do, and it's all often obviously that's driven by the leadership. Just like Benta said, the leadership decided they want to do this, right? So it's a bit of positional power that they're using to say you got to use Kanban. I don't necessarily operate that way, where I would want to understand why. First of all, what are they expecting you to achieve using it? Because if they don't really understand Kanban, right, how are they also leveling up their knowledge and experience? Because they have to support you in this endeavor, right? And I always have a coaching alliance when I go in, and when I speak to leadership about using Kanban. We don't just go and use Kanban. If we don't get leadership in, if we don't get leadership support, then it's going to be honestly probably I don't want to say the word waste of time. It's just going to be challenging. I'll just say challenging.
Yeah. So that's so just to conclude this particular topic of ours, right? The one that we're talking right now. Can I say that you can start with the Kanban system design course as a team level implementation, where it will help you start with the design of the board with right elements, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And
start from where you are. Again, an evolution. But I'm saying sometimes we do things right, and if you really want to give them as much value as possible in using and understanding, it takes a little bit of enablement. You gotta learn some of the stuff, right?
Right.
Because you may be going down a path, you may not need to go, or maybe it wouldn't be good to go. But if you can get them to be consistent, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Surat.
Oh, no. I was saying yes. And also looking at the chat, a couple of things that Margaret has put, and I was waiting to ask her that question. A couple of things on hidden backlog, and the WIP includes or excludes system. I wanted to ask her a little on that, maybe, or you or her can help us understand that better about hidden backlogs and how it can affect us.
Hidden backlogs. Hidden backlogs.
Margaret?
Go ahead.
Please.
I want to make sure I understand what they mean by hidden backlog.
I wish I understood what I meant by hidden backlogs. It's just that, like, the work, there's so many relationships between developers and managers and different levels, and there's just work that they give people who should have very well defined work and WIP, and it can just come at them from any place and they're working on it, and it's just like, and then you find out that they're working on this other thing and you're like, how did this get into your,
Yeah.
The
and
work
so I
that
call
gets
that
can't get on the
hidden
board.
work backlogs is what I call it. Yeah.
The one thing
Understood.
thought we have, because this might help you, Margaret. Are we connected on LinkedIn? Because because we only have like 5 minutes, and I want to address your.
I'll reach out. Yeah.
Because I can tell you, if you are able to look at what are your current meetings, right? What are your current feedback mechanisms? Some of them are valuable, right? But some are a waste of time sometimes. We looked at what we did an actual lean analysis of how much work time are they spending in meetings, right? We wanted to understand that first. And then we said, okay, well, what are the outcomes of these meetings? And oftentimes we found that a lot of them really didn't achieve anything in terms of, and so that we wanted to then say, okay, let's refine those a bit. How would you do that? Well, in Kanban, there's a particular one called replenishment. If you are doing a regular replenishment, because again, replenishment is that idea that it's the process of adding new tasks or work items, right, to the Kanban board. And it's usually into the backlog or directly into the columns, but it's the column that signals obviously when you're ready to start that work. So we might have a ready to pull column, right? Initially, we don't necessarily have to have one always, but definitely during the beginning stages of pull systems, right? Because Kanban is a pull system, teams may have trouble understanding when to pull something. So we use that column as a signal, right? So any capacity that is any area or any process that has capacity is considered Kanban. That's the point. That's why they call it empty columns. They have, that's Kanban when you think about it. But it's really about the process ensures that the team always has a steady flow of work, that you're prioritizing those work items, and and maintaining control basically over how much work is in progress. So if you maybe potentially looked at how you would you maybe use a replenishment meeting consistently, whether it's usually it's typically one weekly, but you can do it bi-weekly. And sometimes some teams that are more mature in Kanban will use it as a trigger. So they will have a policy that says, if the ready to pull column gets to 5 work items and under, it's time for us to replenish. So then they will have a meeting, make sure the items are meet the definition of ready. And then we say, okay, we have capacity now to begin the work. So we'll pull those in the ready to start. And then they would then pull them in again based on their capacity. So I've always used the replenishment meetings. I think they're very, very helpful because again, it's really focused on the work, the value that's being delivered. Now, obviously, you may have a product owner, and I know depending on your relationship with the product owner, I would say have that conversation. Obviously, in my case, we don't have product owners, because we Kanban is pragmatic and it doesn't necessarily have roles. It says whatever role is already there can exist. We're not concerned about that. We're concerned about the work, not the workers. So think about that. Think about that replenishment meeting. There is a document that I can send you that even shows you how you would execute a replenishment meeting. It's pretty straightforward. But if you can get into a rhythm of that, maybe you might avoid all this extraneous work, getting into the backlog or getting into, that you don't know of, because you have to actually, as a team, commit to when you're going to deliver that work. So obviously, if you're communicating with your team, they should be able to articulate, right, what they're working on or what should be worked on, and go from there. So yeah, it's called replenishment, but there's other Kanban cadences too that you might find valuable. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, Taz, I have a basic question. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, go ahead.
Can we say a sprint is focused with minimum value addition? That is like a sprint brings in value addition, and the Kanban brings in deliverables, because there is no value addition in Kanban because it is more focused on serviceables and technical debts. Can we say like sprint is a MVA and the Kanban is focused with only deliverables, so there is no value addition? Can we say that?
Let's say that's a myth.
That's a myth.
That's incorrect.
Scrum or
Hey,
Kanban? I'm sorry.
no, please
Go
do.
ahead.
My
I got excited, Taz. Go ahead, please.
a little bit. My voice is a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I want you to go ahead and speak on that one.
No, I was just gonna say Scrum or Kanban. It's the work that adds value, not Kanban or Scrum, right? So the work that you're doing, if the story that you're committing to adds value, then it adds value, right? It does not because you're doing Scrum or not because you're doing Kanban, the value is added to customer. So the same story or same set of stories could be in Kanban and Scrum. Both of them might add value, will add value. So the framework does not add value. The work that we are doing adds value. That's
Yeah,
I
because
agree.
one question for this is, I also said the same thing like you, Sarat, in one of my interviews, but I was negated with that for some reason. I do not know. The reason how what they have explained is I do not know why I have been answered like this. They said that in the more focus for Kanban is like service level tickets and service orientation, and you know it is only a feature based, whereas the Scrum is enabling based because there is a user story and a testing cycle into that. So that is why it is a challenging to say that like Kanban is a MVA. So that was what I was answered. So I'm just trying to clarify
understood.
myself. When
Understood.
they are
But
right, I am
I'll let Taz answer that. I think I took the chance, but
I wish I
yeah,
could. I wish I could honestly go through the Imperial Garden story because I think that story would really help to understand what really Kanban is all about. Um, I think there's a misunderstanding there. I'm not sure how much time they've spent learning Kanban or training, and that's often the case, right? Sometimes when there isn't a full understanding, then we get into things that really we get people to believe that this, Kanban is just this, thing that has some specificity around what type of work you're doing, and it has nothing to do with the type of work you're doing. It has to do
right,
with you have work that is valuable and you want to your workflow so you can improve on your delivery potentially or whatever and that's whatever you're delivering. It does not matter what you're delivering. You could be a donut shop and you're delivering value, right? Because for me, I want my donuts, so that's my value when I come into the store and I know their process is fast, so I go back every time because and you can even equate it to like a pizza shop. You can equate it to a coffee shop, donut shop, whatever. But the idea is it does not matter what type of work. I would maybe, definitely there's some tools, there's some
I think it's a
resources.
myth that takes time to solve in the industry.
Yeah,
You can
you
put
got
it.
to make sure
Yeah,
I would encourage them to learn more about
Kanban.
Kanban, yeah, or Kanban, however you pronounce it. Because
That's
yeah,
we have time.
yep,
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any other
my pleasure.
questions? Again, I think any other questions, we will handle it on chat. You can always send out invite to Taz and me, AgileFever. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. We're happy to help you out with it. Thank you again so much, Taz, for your time and helping us with your valuable knowledge. Really appreciate it, Taz. Rest of the folks, glad that you guys could join. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Taz, again. Thank you all.